Hello, my fellow strawmen, and welcome back to the Fields of Hay. Today I wanted to give a little more detail on an idea I've brought up in a few of my videos. I have a standard that may seem a little weird at first, but which I truly think could falsify my naturalistic beliefs should it ever be met. It's not the only thing which would falsify my naturalism, but at least it's representative of the standard I'm looking for. Basically, I don't think that I could account for a large bag of Skittles which suddenly sorted itself by color. I understand that other naturalists may say that it's a non-zero probability, and I agree. But I would add that taking a closer look at that probability and how its scale compares to the event itself is exactly what makes it so convincing to me. I think the best way to explain my calculation is to simply put it up on screen and let those who are interested pause and check it. I end up with this formula, which doesn't look particularly large or small to the untrained eye. But if you look at the unsimplified product, it's clear to see that none of the fractions are larger than 1, while there are hundreds of fractions much smaller than 1. Clearly, this number will come out incredibly small for any values of n more than a few dozen. The largest bag of Skittles I can find is the party size, which says it has 49 servings of 29 pieces each. We'll call it 1420 pieces to keep the math easy. Assuming there are equal numbers of each color, n would be 284. That would give a probability of about 1 in 10 to the 980 that any given bag would come out sorted. Even for the smaller family size bag, which only has 28 servings and an n of 162, it comes out with a sorting probability of about 1 in 10 to the 560. Even accounting for the thousands of different patterns I could decide qualify as sorted, and the minor differences in the number of each color, it's hard to make this number any more likely than 1 in 10 to the 500. To put this number into perspective, if every proton in the universe had its own bag that it shook up and opened 1,000 times each second over the entire lifespan of the observable universe from Big Bang to heat death, then the chances that it would have happened even once in the entire universe are about 1 in 10 to the 300. It barely puts a dent in the improbability. Even in an infinite multiverse, just being in one of the lucky universes is significantly less likely than correctly picking a single particle out of all in the entire universe. It is so exceedingly likely that we are in a universe which will never see a sorted bag of Skittles that I am willing to say that we, on our human timescales, will never witness such a bag. Therefore, if I do ever see a bag sort itself, it would falsify my beliefs. There are a few caveats to be aware of. Firstly, and especially since I've made this a standard that everyone knows about, I could easily imagine someone sneaking into my house overnight, tediously sorting a bag of Skittles and leaving it for me to find. The larger this channel grows, the more incentive there is for someone to try to trick me into believing in God. So the fix to this is simple. Before I check for the Skittles to be sorted, I always shake the bag. That way any pre-sorted bags would get remixed. God would be the only being capable of either pre-sorting the Skittles to fall into place after shaking, sort them during the shake, or even just simply hold them still while I'm shaking. I would also eat the Skittles. This step is to make sure that they really are Skittles and not like tiny robots or holograms or embedded with magnets. At that point, I'd be out of excuses. If I got through all these steps, I'd either have to believe in an unacceptable degree of chance, or that some higher intelligence is trying to communicate with me with the goalpost that I'm laying out right here, right now. If this was something that I never thought about before and it happened to me, it'd be like being surprised at the unlikelihood of a random particular hand of cards I was given, which is just as unlikely as any other. It's not particularly impressive. But by accepting the standard right now, by setting that goalpost, it'd be like predicting that same hand of cards. Much more unlikely and much more impressive if it turns out to happen. Perhaps God has ways of communicating with me that I am unaware of, but at least this way, I'm reaching out to him with something that I know would convince me. I leave it in God's hands what message he will send back. If all that happens is a sorting of the colors, I would simply believe in a general deistic God. I would think that someone is out there, but I need a little bit more to say anything about which kind of God. If against the background of the sorted bag, one color is used to spell something on the top layer, I'd believe anything it says. If it says Allah, I'd become a Muslim in a heartbeat. If it says Jesus, I wouldn't hesitate to accept him into my heart. If it says Brahma, I'll fly to India and talk to gurus and learn the ways of Hinduism. If it says we come in peace, I'll believe there are hyper-advanced aliens indistinguishable to us from God. And while I'm fully aware that nothing precludes an alien from pretending to be Allah, or Jesus from pretending to be Brahma, I simply don't think that a being with the kind of power necessary to sort the Skittles would bother to care enough about me to lie. So I would take them at their word. Funnily, I wouldn't expect anyone to take me at mine. If you ever hear me say that I've seen the Skittles sort themselves, you're probably better off assuming that I've been bought off by Big Christian. Even if I held the belief genuinely, I wouldn't kid myself and pretend that I have any reasonable way of convincing others that I'm not just making it up for attention. Nor should anyone listen to this and think that going around saying that it's happened to them should convince anyone. It's too personal a miracle. So for those of you who want to be better at convincing others of what you believe, your best bet is probably to start by reading a fucking book.